Welcome to Trinitarian Church. My name is Craig. I'm one of the pastors here at the church. Now, this is the application message that goes along with the message that I originally did on the Trinity. So the idea behind the application message is that we're going to take the topic and we're going to explain the how-tos of if you want to change, if you want to experience the change that we're talked about, if you're stirred to look for more transformation, these are ways that you can do that. Here are ways to follow up on that. So to recap the message, I talked about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how they were forced into a furnace for refusing to worship other gods. Now, God doesn't take them out of the furnace, but He joins them where they're at. And that's really important to note, that God meets us where we're at, and what He does when He gets there, when He meets us there, it's community. It's community with us, and then we get to enter into the community of who He is, which is the Holy Trinity. And it's important to note that all of us have furnaces. Now, we might not have literal furnaces that we're going through in our lives, but we constantly have difficult situations that we experience, right? We constantly have them, situations where we feel trapped, where we feel like there's a bad situation happening, there's a bad choice here, there's a bad choice there, and we don't know how we're going to get out of it. And it's important to note that the God of the community is in the fire with us. He comes into the mess that we have. That's a lot of the gospel message. But God doesn't always take us out of the furnaces. It's not that we see this just magical door that opens and okay, that's our escape. Now we need to follow. Now here's why, and here's part of the reason of it, is that our life is made of systems. Systems, think of it in terms of like an ecosystem, like a rainforest or something, that everything within the ecosystem is dependent on other parts, and they're all interconnected. You affect one part, you affect everything. You introduce a new species of animal, then it changes everything. You take all the bugs out, and it ruins everything and just completely changes it. And so in our lives, similar to those ecosystems, we find equilibrium, so we find a kind of balance. That doesn't mean healthy, but we find some sort of balance, or what's called homeostasis. It's that idea that we just find this place where everything's kind of running together. It might not be spiraling in the right direction, but it's spiraling and everything's kind of moving, and things start to learn the flow of how our life is going to go. Now, the question is, how do we change those systems and habits? So the habits that come along with that, as our lives kind of hit that flow, how do we introduce change? And the only possible way to change a system is you have to introduce a disruptor. A disruptor, like I mentioned about, introducing a new species of animal. There's something that needs to change, and the system as a whole needs to change as well. And so what we learn in the Bible is that God is the ultimate disruptor. That whatever situation's happening, God knows a way to come in and trigger people and prompt change. And so that the systems and the habits that we get stuck in, God provides a way for us to break out of it. And God created us, in addition to this, for community. Now, our community, the system that we have, can be either good or bad. And so that's important to note, that even though we were people that were created to be around people, the people that are around us aren't always the most helpful. And so there are some people in our lives that are godly people and godly influences. And just like God, they tend to disrupt the system. They tend to ask us questions like, should you be doing that? What do you feel like the Bible says about that? What do you feel like God's saying about that? And then we have some other people in our lives who are like, yeah, go for it. Yeah, just, pay the bill later. You'll be good. There's a huge difference in our quality of life depending on the people that surround us. And so it's important to think about creating a good system. How do we create this kind of ecosystem of life that's going to promote good change and good transformation, as opposed to continuing to feed into some of the bad stuff, the stuff that doesn't work, the stuff that is going to help the habits to continue, that's going to encourage us to depend on ourselves. And we all have friends like that, right? You'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Just, here's my advice. based off what I've done and I've seen in the past, blah, blah, blah. That's completely different than the people that are God-centered, are going to focus us back on God. So the question is, how do we start to change our system? How do we start to change the pieces? How do we start to introduce these people that are more disruptors to these bad habits? We need to be very intentional. People like that are going to continue to point you towards God and aren't going to inject advice that's based off their own insecurities. They're not easy to find. So we want to try to find two different things. We want to try to find mentors and groups. Now, mentors, it's anyone that can meet with you one-on-one. That can be a counselor, that can be an older person. It's just someone that has the spiritual maturity to look you in the eyes and say, what is going on with you right now? And when that ecosystem that you're in keeps directing you to all the problems and all the ways that you're trapped and you're screwed and whatever, that person can look you in the eyes and say, it's okay. But what's going on with you and God right now? So having a godly mentor can just be huge as far as disrupting those patterns and those cycles from happening. The other thing is groups. When we have a group, when you have a people around you that are getting intimately involved in your life, they know about what's going on, then that'll change the ecosystem, because you're introducing a bunch of people that now you're having to react to them in a different way. And so when you have those friends around you that are going to encourage some bad habits, they're going to reinforce that. They become the system. They create their own homeostasis. They create this equilibrium. If you have a group that's going to promote you, it's going to promote change, is going to help you to find more disruption, more ways to challenge yourself, that's going to create its own equilibrium. And you're going to kind of spiral up as opposed to spiraling down. How do you find those things? That's something that changes based on the person. You probably already know people that can speak to you. And if you ask them and said, could you meet with me one-on-one once a week and just help redirect me towards God, help redirect me towards something better? You probably already know people that can do that. If you don't have people that can do that one-on-one, if you don't have a strong group of people that you could meet with on a weekly basis that would kind of help redirect you, change the patterns and the behaviors that you're stuck in, contact us at Trinitarian. We have mentors. We have people that can meet with you one-on-one. We have people that want to do long-distance groups. We might have people in your area that want to meet with you in whatever capacity. But the best thing for disrupting the ecosystem that you're stuck in is surrounding yourself with community, and a good community. That's a lot of why God meets us in the middle of the fire, is that He's there. He's not just there to put out one fire. He's trying to put out all the fires. He's trying to break those systems that are continually creating fires, that are continually putting us in the position to have to choose between tough choices, that are continually putting us in the position of, do you want to go in the furnace again? So God meets us there and He says, hey, let me be a part of your system. Let me be a part of the ecosystem so that you're spiraling up as opposed to spiraling down. So it's always important for us to look at who has God surrounded us with people-wise, and how much are we letting God disrupt our lives versus how much do we have kind of our set thing that fits within the ecosystem, except it doesn't have the best influence on us.